Okay.
None. You've been heard.
No, and I won't be talking. Karen will. She'll talk loud. Okay. Welcome everybody to our Friday morning Zoom coffee chat. And with us today, our guest speaker is Karen Phoenix with Project Care. And I'm going to let Karen tell a little bit about herself. And she has a wonderful presentation on dementia today. So welcome, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Ingrid. Um, Today we're going to talk about the reality of dementia with stories of dementia. I am a project care coordinator, and Project Care is the only North Carolina state-funded program for caregivers of people with dementia. Um, we have 6 family consultants that represent 6 regions statewide. It's designed for caregivers of people with dementia. And what we do is meet the caregiver where they are, mentally and physically, and provide one on one information, education, and support for that caregiver. And we evaluate them for entitlement programs or available support that's out there, and refer them to those programs as they're available. We evaluate any safety issues that may be in the home and provide suggestions, tips, tricks, anything that can help them manage the symptoms of dementia. And we have a limited availability of respite funding. And what that does is pay for someone who can come in the home and sit with the person with dementia so the caregiver can get some time away. I have some caregivers who use it for a certain day. For example, on Thursdays, they know if somebody's coming every Thursday to sit with the person with dementia so they can go out to lunch with friends or get their hair done or schedule doctor's appointments. And then others use it for vacations, funerals, weddings, even surgeries. So the respite funding can be tailored to use however the caregiver needs that. And then there is ongoing access to me for questions, concerns, and problems with um, that may come up with dementia as they progress with the disease. So I know a lot of you know what dementia is and have heard several different presentations from different people on dementia and what it is and how it works. But I always like to start off with kind of a description and picture everybody can see. So as you can see, dementia is the umbrella diagnosis. Dementia is the umbrella term that describes a collection of symptoms that are caused by disorders affecting the brain. It is not one specific disease, but a group of diseases. And I've heard this best described as, um, for example, dogs is an umbrella diagnosis. You have a lot of different kinds of dogs. And so dogs is the umbrella. And then you have schnauzers, pit bulls, um, poodles, all kinds of dogs under there. So with dementia, it is the umbrella diagnosis. And then underneath, you have Alzheimer's disease, vascular dementias, Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal dementia, and over 120 different types of dementia. And a person can have more than one type of dementia going on at the same time, which is what makes it so difficult to treat the disease. Um, and because I know that you've had a lot of different presentations on what dementia is and how dementia works and that kind of thing, today we're going to talk about specific stories of people who have the disease. So when you picture a person with dementia in your mind, what is it that you see? What do you envision? Generally, you think of someone who's elderly. You may think of somebody who's disheveled, who's constantly confused, has difficulty communicating, trouble walking. They may be bedridden or incapable, miserable. They may be disabled. They may have a companion with them. They may be aimlessly walking or aimlessly talking. They may be depressed, mindless, forgetful, incontinent, and rambling. So we think of a lot of negatives that come up with dementia. And often we picture a person, a woman with dementia. And dementia does affect women disproportionately than men. So we are seeing a lot of male caregivers who are providing care to women with dementia.
Why does it affect women more than men?
There
Do
are
they
a
know?
lot, there are a lot of studies that are going on right now, and we're not really sure, is the bottom line. We're not really sure why it affects women more than men. I have a friend in the industry who says it's because men drive us crazy. So I don't think that's it, but there are a lot of studies going on to determine why women are affected disproportionately. We do spend a lot of our time taking care of other people rather than taking care of ourselves. And that is one of the things that leads to dementia is not taking care of yourself, not eating right, not exercising, and doing the things that we need to do for our bodies to stay healthy. But the truth is, dementia has many faces, and today we're going to talk about those true stories of dementia. Some of the details, names, and photos have been changed due to confidentiality. These are actual and composite true stories of dementia. It could be your neighbor, your friend, a church member, a family member. All of these stories have caregivers involved, but we have many people out there with dementia who do not have a caregiver. And if you think of someone with dementia who does not have someone to take care of them, make sure they have food, make sure that they can do the things that they need to do, then it's scary. Scary to think about what's happening with that person. And we'll have additional question and answer available at the end of the presentation. But do have as you have questions, feel free to ask those questions as we go. Okay, we're going to start out with Rebecca. And Rebecca is 43 years old, and she was diagnosed with dementia 3 years ago. So Rebecca was diagnosed with dementia at 40 years old. She lived with her husband in Alabama and had two teenage kids. One is now in high school, one is now in college. They were both in high school when she was diagnosed. She woke up one morning and did not recognize her husband. She was slapping him, hitting him, pushing him out of bed. Who are you and why are you in bed with me? Progression happened beyond that. Eventually, he convinced her who she was. He showed her pictures, and she became okay with him. He was taking care of her, and then progression happened, and she started to not recognize him. He could not orient her to reality. He could not get her to let him help her. Currently, she does not recognize her husband or her children. Her children, she has one in high school and one in college. She came from Alabama to our area to live with her mom and dad. Her mom and dad are aged 73 and 75, and mom and dad are her primary caregivers. Rebecca can't speak that you can understand her. She babbles much like a child does. During the time I was with her in her home, she walked around with a telephone book and was what is that? What? And just walked in circles around in the room. You couldn't understand her words, and she could not effectively communicate with me or with her mom, but yet she is completely physically fit. She has no health issues, no arthritis, no heart disease, nothing else going on with her because she's so young. So it was just, she is the most difficult person to deal with. So what we did with Project Care is we provided a respite voucher, and the caregiver was able to use a family friend to stay with Rebecca so that the caregiver could get some time away just to be normal for a little while. We also developed a picture board so that Rebecca could point on the picture board to the things that she wanted. If she needed to go to the bathroom, if she needed something from the kitchen, she could point to those things and at least do some type of communication, since she couldn't verbally communicate what it was she needed to do. But Rebecca is still going strong, and you can imagine what it's like for a 73-year-old mom who has her 43-year-old daughter sleeping with her because she's frightened, or the 73-year-old mom who is bathing her 43-year-old child because Rebecca can't remember the steps for taking a bath. So all of those things are happening with Rebecca and with her mom. So the concern with Rebecca that we have currently is mom is having some surgery, and we don't know what's going to happen with Rebecca while mom has surgery, because she relies more on mom than dad. Mom is familiar, dad is familiar too, but mom is the caregiver. So we're trying to figure out means for someone to care for Rebecca while mom has surgery. Any questions with that one? No? Okay. All right. Next, we have Bob, who is 53. Bob was diagnosed at age 50 with Lewy body dementia. He knows he lives with his wife, and he recognizes her, and he knows that things aren't normal. He knows that what he's experiencing is not normal for a person his age or for any person. Their children are grown and out of the house, and he has 3 grandchildren under the age of 5. Hallucinations are a big part of his life. He'll be sitting in the living room and he will see what he thinks is a rat run across the floor, and there's nothing there. And sometimes he'll tell his wife about it, and other times he won't, because he knows it's not real and it's not something that should be happening. He acts out his dreams. So while he's sleeping, and he's a former police officer, so while he's sleeping, he will suddenly start acting out a scenario in his sleep with his wife in bed with him, and he cannot be awakened to come out of that dream. So his wife has had experiences where suddenly he is fighting, kicking, beating her without intending to, and she can't wake him up to do anything for him. So what she does is she gets up, goes to the doorway, and stands in the doorway waiting for him to come out of the trance-like state that he's in, acting out his dream as a police officer. It's very scary for her because she never knows at what point or when he's going to have one of his spells come up. Because he realizes that everything's not normal, and he realizes that there are times that he acts out his dreams, he won't come out of his bedroom to see visitors. He's afraid that he's going to act out, or that he's going to go into a spell, or he's going to see a hallucination come running across the floor with a visitor there. So he has pretty much isolated himself into the bedroom with the windows closed, the blinds closed, and the door closed.
So does he know he's having those episodes?
He knows he's having the episodes, and that's why he wants to stay away from everybody else, because he doesn't want others to be frightened or affected by what he's seeing and what he's experiencing.
Interesting.
He will not let himself see his grandchildren, because he's, again, afraid that he might just suddenly do something to harm them, because part of Lewy body dementia is the freeze ups and tremors that you have with Parkinson's. And so he's afraid that if he's holding one of his grandchildren, he may have a tremor and accidentally either hit them, hurt them, drop them, do something that may harm them. He sleeps and rests most of the time, stays in the bedroom and watches TV. There's really nothing else that he does. He can't read any longer. He can read, but he can't retain what he reads. And he tells everyone that he wishes he would die. And that's, I mean, it's, if he has a visitor, it's, it's the life's not worth living. I can't interact with anybody. I don't know what's happening with my life. And I just wish I would go on. So what we did with Bob through Project Care, is we got him involved with some other people who had Lewy body dementia and Parkinson's, who have some of the symptoms that he has, so that he could at least have somebody to talk to about it, who understood what he's dealing with. We also got him to allow his family to visit with him. He will sit across the room from them, but at least he can sit there and talk and have conversation and see the grandchildren. The grandchildren can see him. And we've talked to his wife about having separate bedrooms with him in a hospital bed. That's something that's kind of in progress right now. So that she can actually get some rest, because she is still working full time. So with her working full time, she needs her rest so that she can do her job and provide for the family the way she needs to. Okay, next we have Ralph, who's age 58, and he's the son of Mamie, who's age 82. Mother Mamie has dementia. She was diagnosed 5 years ago. She had a hip fracture 2 years ago. And when she had the hip fracture, she had significant progression with her dementia. Ralph took a leave from work to take care of his mom because he knew that she needed it. The doctor said she needed 24-hour care. His leave from work ran out 18 months ago. So at that point, he lost his job. He cares for his mom totally now. She's bedbound. He feeds her, he bathes her, he changes her to pins, he cleans her up. His friends no longer come around because they are just embarrassed by the whole situation. So he is really isolated, because Mamie can't be left alone. He said that until recently, when they started doing all of the food delivery, he would leave her for like 10 minutes to run out to Bojangles and get some breakfast and come back. But other than that, he would not leave her alone at all, and she shouldn't be left alone. But this concern for Ralph is he has no future once Mamie passes. He's quit his job. There's no guarantee he's going to get another job, especially in today's situation with jobs and with COVID and all the things that are happening there. So he's given up his life to take care of his mom, which is an admirable thing. But with being admirable, he's put his own life and future at risk. He has no income at this point. They're relying totally on her income and living in her house, for him to take care of her. And he's been very creative in his care of taking care of his mom. For example, one of the things that he did was, with her hospital bed, he took pool noodles and wrapped around the rails of the hospital bed so that she wouldn't bump her arms and get bruises on her arms as she moved around in the hospital bed. So he's just very dedicated to his mom. And again, it's completely admirable, but he needs to have a future as well. So what we did with Project Care is we got Ralph hooked up with hospice so that hospice could come in and help with some of the bathing, and bed changes and that type thing with his mom. They come to check on her once a week. They bring the Depends, and so that's no longer an expense for them. And he also, through hospice, they have a respite program, but their respite program means that Mamie would have to leave and go to another facility to stay. But with our respite program, someone that Ralph knows can come in and stay with Mamie. So we gave Ralph some respite dollars so that he can have someone come in and stay with Mamie, and he can go to his doctor's appointments and go to the things he needs to, while Mamie stays there at home with someone that she knows. And we also I work through Western Piedmont Council of Governments, and through our agency, we have a job relocation program. And I've already been talking to our coordinator to see what might be available for him as Mamie progresses and passes. Okay, next we have Frank. And this picture is not of Frank, but might as well be because I've seen that look from him before. He was diagnosed 10 years ago, and he lives in the middle of nowhere with his wife. He does not remember that he's been diagnosed with dementia. He thinks nothing's wrong with him, and it increases his agitation and frustration if you say anything to him about him having dementia. He's in a wheelchair because of his instability. If he stands up, his blood pressure does not equalize and he falls. So he does not understand why he's in a wheelchair and is completely always fussing and arguing about why he's in a wheelchair. He's aggressive and struggles against care. He doesn't want somebody to take care of him because in his mind, he doesn't have anything wrong with him. Sometimes he speaks unintelligibly and just makes no sense at all. Other times he speaks fine and makes complete sense with his wife. He gets very angry when he sees the man in the mirror. He says that whoever that person is in the mirror is not him. That's somebody else, and he doesn't know who that man in the wheelchair is, but he needs to get out of the house. And as I mentioned, he cooperates and speaks normally sometimes, and he can't be left alone. So his wife, as you can imagine, being left completely alone with your husband who can be aggressive with you is not a safe scenario. Their nearest neighbor is like 3 miles away, which doesn't sound like a long way, but really is when you're in an unsafe situation. So we worked with Frank's wife, who's his caregiver, to develop a relationship with that neighbor and have the neighbor come over and visit and spend some time with Frank. We also got Frank to the doctor so that the doctor could work with Frank and see if there was anything medically going on with him. And some antibiotics and some medications were able to help with Frank. And finally, we got his wife, Frank's wife, did not want to go out of town. She did not want to leave Frank because she had always been the one to take care of him. She was not concerned at all that he would take, or not convinced that he would let somebody else check on him or take care of him. But through many conversations, we got her convinced that she could take some time away and get some time away from the fear that she was living in. And she used a voucher to go and visit her daughter in Ohio, who had a granddaughter that she had never seen. So she got to see her granddaughter for the first time, got some time away from Frank, and actually came back and said that she was completely a different person. She said, I feel completely renewed, refreshed, and I can't believe how much of a difference it was just to have a few days away. That's Frank. Then we have Linda. Linda was diagnosed with vascular dementia 2 years ago. She lives with her caregiver, who is her husband, who is 87. She acknowledges everything, but then forgets everything. She says, "Oh yes, I know." You'll talk to her about her memory and what's going on with her memory. "Oh yes, I know. I forget things." And then 5 minutes later, it's, "Well, what do you mean I forget things? I've never been told that before." And she even forgets her husband, Harold. He will leave the room for a minute and then come back into the room. And when he comes back into the room, she's like, "Who are you? And why are you a man here in my house? You need to leave. My husband is here and you're just not supposed to be here." And through working with Harold and Linda, we found that if Harold leaves the house when she has one of those spells and waits just a few minutes, all he has to do is go out on the front porch and stand there for a few minutes, and then he'll knock on the door and come in like he usually used to when he came back from work. She will um, she will recognize him as Harold when he comes back in. That doesn't work with everyone, but it did work with her. Harold completes all of the care needs for Linda. He helps her with the bath. He helps her with getting to the bathroom, changing the pins, and doing everything that she needs, encouraging her to brush her teeth. He does all of the care needs and the reminding for that. And he also completes all of the household chores. So he does all the cooking, all the cleaning, everything falls on Harold's shoulders. But Harold tells you he will not have it any other way. He does not want anyone else to be involved or to take the responsibility of caring for Linda. We finally got him convinced to hire someone to come in and do a little bit of the household chores and to also have some meal support through the Meals on Wheels program. Um, so that gave him, again, just a little bit of a reprieve from what he needs. One of the cutest things that Harold and Linda came up with was they have special T-shirts that they wear when they go out. And on the back of his shirt, it says Harold. And on the back of her shirt, it says, "If lost, return to Harold." And they have worn those shirts to the grocery store, to Sam's, and different places. And Harold has had instances when someone would come over the speaker and say, "Will Harold please come to the front? Will Harold please come to the front?" And there's Linda waiting on him. So it does work, but to me, that was an interesting way to communicate that she has a memory issue and to get the two back together if they get misplaced. Okay. Next, we have 20-year-old Chloe, who cares for 83-year-old Delphine. Delphine was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 5 years ago. Her granddaughter Chloe has lived with Delphine since she was 12. Delphine's children will visit and they write all the checks, pay all the bills, but they will not stay to help her. They just come to visit and then they leave. Chloe stepped into the role of caregiver, of permanent caregiver 3 years ago. She assists with bathing, dressing, cooking meals, cleaning house, doing all of the chores for the house, as well as caring for Delphine. Chloe has no friends and no life outside of the home. She's never had a job. She didn't go to college. She went straight from graduating high school to continuing to care for Delphine. She's not allowed to make any of the decisions for herself or Delphine. She's just expected to maintain this role of caregiver. And the concern here is what happens with Chloe's future, because all Chloe knows is taking care of Delphine. The family will not hire someone to come in and stay with Delphine so that Chloe can go to the community college and take classes. They say they can't afford for that to happen. Um, and they tell Chloe that room and board for her is the exchange they give her for caring for Delphine. Um, so here we have a 20-year-old who feels like she has no future. And what Project Care did in this situation is we offered a voucher to assist with someone to come in and stay with Delphine so that Chloe could go out with her friends from high school just for a little bit and get a break. And then we also connected them with the Home and Community Care Block Grants that assist with home health aid and with Meals on Wheels, just to give her some additional support in the house so that she's not caring for her grandmother 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's just a completely unique situation, as every situation with dementia is. Next, we have Elizabeth, who's 82, and she's caregiver for Henry, who's age 85. Henry was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 8 years ago, and he lives with Elizabeth, who is his wife and caregiver. Elizabeth is in a wheelchair due to a stroke, and Henry likes to walk and talk, and Henry likes to wander outside. And of course, Elizabeth, who's in a wheelchair, can't go outside. So Elizabeth cooks, cleans, and directs the household, but she's worried about Henry. So immediately the concern that comes up here with this situation is safety for Elizabeth and for Henry. So with Project Care, we immediately jumped on the safety issue with Elizabeth and Henry and connected them with a program that assists with building ramps for households. And they built a ramp so that Elizabeth can get outside to catch Henry if he goes outside. They had a church who built a fence to kind of fence in the yard to keep Henry within a certain range around the yard. We also got some safety alarm alerts to go on the doorways so that when Henry opens the door, it alarms and Elizabeth knows that Henry has gone outside. And the ramp is also there for safety for Elizabeth so that she can get out of the house if there were a fire or some other emergency that she needed to leave the home. So there are a lot of things involved with this situation. Hospice has been involved with Henry, I think, for the last 3 months. So we did finally get hospice involved with them as well. Just a kind of summary of dementia caregiving. There are a lot of situations of children, and by children, I mean adult children, who are caring for parents alone or in rotation. So we have a lot of adult children who have mom or dad living with them, and they're taking care of them. We have other children who are going to mom's house and they're taking turns what nights somebody stays with mom or stays with dad. We have a lot of instances of men taking care of women. And again, that can be a husband or a son. It's really interesting to see who steps up to take care. I used to assume that it was always the daughter who took care of mom, but it's not always the daughter. There are a lot of instances of men taking care of women. There are multiple intergenerational caregiving issues. And with intergenerational, it's you've got grandchildren taking care of grandmother, as I mentioned in the one scenario. We also have a lot of caregiving sandwich families, or club sandwich families is what I call them, where you have a caregiver who is taking care of mom who has dementia, but is mother to a 23 to 30-year-old, and is also taking care of the grandchildren, her own grandchildren. So she's taking care of her grandchildren, kind of watching out for her kids, and taking care of her mom. So that's a lot of weight to be on someone's shoulders. So we do all we can to try to help with that. Um, Isolation and caregiving is a big concern because once someone begins caregiving for a person with dementia, you have a lot of, they don't have time to go anywhere other than home and to the place where the person with dementia lives. We also have many people, and because my program deals with caregivers of people with dementia, I don't have a good handle on how many, but we have a lot of people with dementia who are living alone and have no one to provide the meals. We have no one to see how they're doing, to get them to the doctor, that kind of thing. And many who don't even know they have dementia, we don't even know they have dementia. So it's a scary situation when I hear the statistic that 1 in 6 people will have dementia. Well, 1 in 3 are going to have a caregiver. So we've got 3 people out there that have no caregiver, that nobody's going to care for. There's a deficit of professionally trained caregivers. Um, there, people do not want to take care of a person with dementia. We've got overall caregivers are underpaid. They're paid anywhere from $8 to $10 an hour is all that they get. Um, and so they don't want to spend their working time providing care, especially cleaning up when someone has soiled themselves, encouraging someone to take a bath. They're just not invested in that type of career for themselves. And then dementia, as I mentioned, is increasing substantially. So we're going to have more situations of people with dementia and less caregivers who are available to take care of them. So again, while this was a snapshot of different people that I'm involved in, that I assist taking care of, this program was presented by Project Care, and I am the Project Care Family Consultant for the Foothills region. I'm a dementia specialist and dementia certified. I work through the Western Piedmont Council of Governments, and this has my email address and also my phone number. Do I have any questions? I went through that kind of quickly, so.
Is Project Care nationwide?
No, Project Care is just within the state of North Carolina.
Okay. Too bad.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, there are only 6 caregivers, 6 family consultants like myself. So each of us have a large number of a large number of counties that we care for. I have 16 counties, and we have one consultant who has 31 counties. She's in the far northeast, and the population is sparse there, and they based the division among population rather than actual distance when they divided things out.
That's a lot of territory.
It's a lot of territory. Even my 16 counties is a lot of territory.
Yeah.
I go from the border with Tennessee to the border of Virginia and down to Winston-Salem and over to Burnsville. So it's quite a big area just for me. I can't imagine 31 counties.
Does anyone else have a question? You'll have to unmute yourself.
I do.
Okay, Sherry.
Karen, have you had anyone with normal pressure hydrocephalus in your caseload?
I have not had anyone with that specific diagnosis, no.
Okay. I may give you a call later.
Okay. It will be nice to hear from you, Sherry. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Can you do a short recap of what Lewy body is exactly? Or is it take too long?
No, Lewy body dementia, and I'll go back up to Bob. Lewy body dementia is the presentation of different deposits, protein deposits in the brain. in different parts of the brain that interfere with normal functioning of the brain cells. And with Lewy body dementia, it blocks the transmission of normal activity, and for some reason, it causes Parkinson's-like symptoms, and then also the hallucinations and activity that is unexpected, such as acting out dreams and not knowing reality from fantasy. A lot of times a person with Lewy body dementia will see something on the TV and think that's a real person talking to them. I've had several people with Lewy body dementia who have broken TVs because they thought that the person on TV, when being aggressive, was being aggressive toward them. Does that help?
Yes, ma'am. Ingrid, can I don't want a copy of like this picture of Bob or anything like that, but can I get a copy of the face page and her last page with the information on? I'll pick it up at the center.
Yes, we will get that to you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Do you want it printed?
Do I want what?
Do you want me to print it?
Yeah, if you can. I can't print,
Okay, yeah, I will. No problem.
but I don't need all this here stuff. You know, anything just like the info pages,
Okay,
not the people's history.
right. Okay, yeah. And anybody else, if you need some of it, we're happy to get it.
And if you have a specific type of dementia that you're concerned about or that you have questions about, I have quite a few booklets with different, like I have a booklet on Lewy body that goes into great detail on Lewy body dementia. So if you want something like that, just let me know and I can drop it off at the senior center for you. I'll be happy to do that.
Would you do that, please? And then I'll pick it up there.
I will. I will be back in my office on next Wednesday. So I'll have it there by next Friday. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
And our hours, Karen, I don't know if you know, it's 8 to 4 right now.
Okay. Is that 5 days a week?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And the one thing I always like to leave everybody with is if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia. And I hope this presentation has shown that. Dementia is different with every person. And you can't see by looking at someone that they have dementia. So if somebody acts strangely to you, if they interact and say something inappropriate or do something inappropriate, give them the benefit of the doubt that something may be going on with them mentally or that you're unaware of. And yes, try to help because a person with dementia is not always going to, number one, know that they have dementia, and number two, know to ask for help. So I always say, just be a good person. And that way, if you're a good person, you can help a person with dementia and potentially their caregiver.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Ingrid. This has been very helpful.
Thanks for everybody for coming.
Thanks a lot.